morning, beautiful people. How are you all doing today? I hope you all are wonderful and happy and healthy and grateful to be alive. I just hope you all have an amazing, amazing, amazing day and a productive one and a blessed one. I also just want to talk today. I've been reading the book of Exodus, and I think I'm on chapter 5 right now. And it's really amazing sometimes how God places his hand of protection, his hand of mercy over our lives from the moment that we're born. When we look at the story of Moses and the time in which he was born, he definitely shouldn't be alive because he was the firstborn son. He definitely shouldn't be alive because he was, in a time where all of the children were being killed. But God already had a plan for him that went far beyond his youth, that went far beyond him being a little baby boy. God had a plan for him from his youth, from his infancy up until his death. And God's hand was all over his life throughout his entire life, in the ways that God just created plans and pathways where he would be protected, pathways where he would be provided for in the midst of such a time, in the midst of the slavery of the people, in the midst of the killing of the firstborns. In the midst of it all, God saw it fit to protect him and to provide for him and to ensure that he had the resources and the accesses that he needed in order to do what he needed to do when the time came. And for those of us who know that there is purpose beyond what we are currently living in, for those of us who know that there is more that God has in store for us, just to know that he has had his hand over you. He has had his hand over you since the moment of your inception, since the moment before you were even a thought in your mother or father's mind, before they even know that they would have you, before they even thought that they would have kids. God had a plan for your life and how he would take care of you, and a plan and an expected end for your life. And the story of Moses just reminded me of that, even in the way that Moses was not the greatest speaker, but God created provisions for him whereby, he can use somebody else to speak for Moses, but he still used Moses for his purposes. And it's just really amazing to see how God has his hand over his children. He protects his children. He takes care of his children. And with all the things that you think would be hindrances on your path, with all the things that you think would be setbacks, or with that speech impediment, with that, you don't think you're the best person for the job, you don't think you're the most qualified, you don't think you have what it takes. None of that matters when God is the one who chooses. He is the one who chooses, and whatever he chooses you for, he will equip you for. And even, I just want to also speak to shortly about the children of Israel. The children of Israel, they cried out to God, and God heard their cry. God remembered the covenant that he made with their forefathers. God is a God who remembers. God is a God who keeps his promises. And know that you can stand on the promises of God. Know that you can walk firmly on the promises of God. And even just going back to Moses and how God had his hand over him through the entire time, in the way that he performed signs and wonders, in the way that he was able to trust that God will come through, even though he was reluctant, even though he was hesitant, when he realized that God will give him the power needed to perform the task, he went ahead and do it. And so I am just encouraging each and every one of you to go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do that thing that you think you're not equipped for. Go ahead and do that thing that you think, oh, I don't know that I have what it takes. Go ahead and do that thing. If God called you to it, you can do it, and he will prepare you. He will give you the tools that you need to do that thing. So go ahead and do it. Keep walking and keep going. There are places where God has called you to in regards to the freedom of others, and it's probably not just, freedom like the children of Israel, but probably spiritual freedom is reliant upon you doing what God has called you to do, what God has predestined and preordained over your life since the very beginning of time. So go ahead and do it. And I just also want to say that when it's time for God to free his people, he will free his people. So for those who are crying out to the Lord, those who are lifting their eyes up to the hills from whence cometh their help cometh from the Lord. Our help cometh from the Lord. Know that he hears the cries of his people. Hear my cry, O Lord, attend to my prayer. From the end of the earth when I cry out to thee, or when my heart is over, God hears the cries of his people. And very soon deliverance will come. Very soon true freedom will come. So know that and keep hoping in that and keep crying out to God and keep praying to God. Deliverance and freedom is on the way. God is a covenant keeping God. God is a God who hears the cries of his people. He is a God who remembers the promises that he has made. And he is a God who is faithful. He cannot be anything else. For he is not a liar and he's not a man. So trust that he will come through. Trust that he will take care of you. Trust and believe, trust and believe, trust and believe, trust and believe, trust and believe. They will never be able to take or keep what God is going to do in and through you. Okay? So trust and believe that he hears the prayers and the cries of his children. Freedom is ours. Freedom is ours. Freedom is ours. Freedom is ours. Don't ever let your voice be silenced. If it's hoarse for a moment, still say what you have to say. Don't ever let your voice be silent. Let it be heard. Speak truth to power at all times. At all times. At all times. Freedom is ours. Freedom is ours. Freedom is ours. And God hears the cries of his children. I hope you all have a wonderful and productive day. Know that I love you all, but God loves you so much more. This is my prayer for you all, to just have a wonderful and blessed day and to know that freedom is ours.